Hi. Hi, Fahim. How are
Hello.
you doing?
Hi. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah. How are you?
Great. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to talk again.
Yeah.
So what have you been up to?
Yeah, well, I've been trying to apply to some different jobs. But also, busy at work. Because everyone's doing their exams now, just finishing. Yeah.
Yeah, because we did have one chat, and I think we'd spoken about there was the issue with Subboor and his chat with his supposed debate with Dave Farina, which turned out to be a total train wreck for Subboor. It was
Mhm.
quite embarrassing how he just didn't talk about the topic that he raised and just started ranting on about Denis Noble.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but at least I did a video on their review, and I did a video on Denis Noble, and Dave's done a review on Denis Noble as well. So I think we can all agree that he was just quote mining without understanding any of it.
Yeah. I mean, Denis Noble doesn't agree with his position anyway, because he specifically says that Darwinism and neo-Darwinism are separate.
Yeah,
Whereas Subboor is saying that they're the same thing, and he's trying to argue against neo-Darwinism instead of Darwinism.
yeah, exactly. He didn't really because he conceded in the debate. It was just,
Basically, yeah. He
Yeah.
said, "Oh, if you're talking about that definition of Darwinism, then everyone believes in it. So then, what's the point of debating?"
yeah, it's just he proposed a debate title, didn't talk about what the debate was supposed to be about, and then he talked about something completely different, and then conceded what the original debate title was. So it's all, it's all a bit rubbish. And so I can see that Dave's maybe moving on to other things, and also Subboor was trying to move on to Clint's reptiles, because Clint did an incredible destruction of Subboor. And Subboor obviously felt that he needed to challenge it, but Clint doesn't really do debates, and it would have just been another train wreck for Subboor.
Yeah, I feel like if that debate happens, Subboor will probably try to show some more respect to Clint since he's a Christian. So I think it'd be interesting to see how the discussion happens, since they're both religious, like how they explain it in their own religious framework. Probably be a friendlier discussion than the one with Dave.
I don't think Clint does debates. He's not really. I've not really seen it. I don't think he's that type. It's just he does his show.
He's quite. Yeah, he's quite a new. I think he's quite a new channel. So he's mainly done responses, debunking other people on evolution. Yeah, I haven't seen him in a debate yet, or even a discussion with someone else. I don't think I've seen that yet.
Yeah. So, okay. So we'll have to see if Subboor really knows his stuff. He could just do a rebuttal video to his takedown, but he obviously won't do that because he's got his own rhetorical tactics for trying to score points and appear to win debates. So I've not actually put a video out for a while. I've just noticed they've been dry in the content that they produce. It's been a bit nothing really particularly interesting. He's done a couple of shorts on Darwinism or something, so I'm just going to leave it and then go back to see what other comes up, and then maybe go back to some of his videos.
Yeah, I think he posted some recent video where he's arguing with some atheists about evolution. I didn't watch it, but it might there might have been someone else, but yeah, I think it was another Speaker's Corner video that he put out.
He was with Adnan, yeah. I might head out there actually.
Yeah,
probably head off.
Be good.
Sometime in the next couple of so weeks, I might just go down there for a Sunday.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why Adnan is talking about evolution, and that's not really. I mean, he doesn't have anything that suggests he's qualified to talk about that, because his specialty is kind of in like Islamic history more than anything science. But I guess they would want to say that since evolution happened in the past, it's actual history, it's not science.
Yeah, he's. I just think. I mean, a lot of them. I don't know whether they are starting to talk outside of their supposed remits. But,
yeah.
Especially with with Subboor not being taken seriously anymore as some sort of evolution person, that maybe someone else needs to step in and pick up that mantle. And see.
Yeah.
But, apart from that, so there's that issue. Then there was the Mohammed Hijab second marriage thing. I think you'd mentioned, and I did a rap on that because I just didn't know much about it. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the other thing I was seeing, that because I'm not sure, EF Darwa, we had Imran and Abbas, and they were talking. Someone brought that up, and they asked them whether it was all Islamically allowed, and you could see how they were dodging the question. They didn't want to. They didn't want to say, even though they could have said no, this is all wrong. Then they would have. Firstly, that would be lying. And they would have thrown Muhammad hijab under the bus, or they could have said it was all allowed. But then they would have made themselves look immoral and foolish. So they chose like the political solution. Out. Yeah.
I mean, because we talked about it last time, and I said that in my understanding, I would say it's not allowed because of the verse about secret marriages. So you can't have a wife and then kind of go behind everyone's back and have like a secret wife somewhere else. But I mean, a lot of people would disagree with that. So
well, Harris Sultan did a video on it, and he actually, he did that, and he said that everything that Muhammad Hijab did could be explained Islamically as being allowed. He said that, and said you could take a second wife without telling your first wife. You don't need her permission. You don't need to tell her. And he said that you could justify that. It just to our modern eyes, it doesn't look that good, but it's theologically you could explain that away.
Yeah. I mean, you could explain away a lot of things. So there'd be a lot of differences of opinion of like what's allowed and what isn't allowed. Like if you look hard enough, you'll find some opinions that say that you're allowed to have alcohol, but not like wine. Or you're allowed to have alcohol until you get drunk. Like there's some opinions that say that. So you can kind of find justifications for almost anything, really. I mean, it just depends on how you understand it, I guess. Whether you want to take advantage of the system or not.
But it's true. You can see how hijab's opponents have really seized on this. You've got apostate prophet, you've got David Wood, Abdullah Samir, friendly ex-Muslim, and his wife has joined in now. So it's Mrs. Friendly ex-Muslim. They're together. They do joint streams together, and they were all dissecting all this, just exposing Muhammad Hijab on this area.
Yeah, I saw he did. The only recent video I saw from him was one on calling out Charlie Kirk. But otherwise, I don't really watch him too much.
I go on just to see if there's anything interesting he might say. But I saw that. I mean, really, the one with Church, it just seemed like typical hijab, just aggressive, just trying to provoke somebody. So I'm surprised there's no, there's just nothing of substance recently on the channel.
Yeah.
there was that. And you mentioned, so going back to Farina, Dave Farina, you mentioned the trans video, and so yeah, I did have a look at that. I thought it was kind of like, I'm just trying to think. He was like bringing up the same talking points that theists use when defending their religion. He was defending like transgenderism that way, and he's making like the same logical errors. He's talking about how you classify things. So he's all saying you could identify as say your gender is of the opposite sex, but why can't you identify as a different race or something, or a different species? They just couldn't give any logical answers to that. And, I was thinking it, and sometimes I don't make trans videos because I just think there's a lot of good anti-trans videos that understand the topic really well. But typically, one I watch is a guy called King Critical. He does really thorough and well-resourced rebuttals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like, I know on Piers Morgan, I think there was Andrew Wilson, Jay Dyer, and then Danny Philtalk and Parker. They all went on. Then one of the main issues was like trans athletes, like whether biological men should be allowed to compete with women if they take the right, hormone treatments or whatever it is. And I think Parker was saying, well, obviously Piers was really against that, but Parker was saying that their their bone density and muscle mass and all that would go down, so it's fine, it's fair. But I think that's probably the most dangerous part of it, where a lot of the biological women can end up getting injured if it's like combat sports. Because the biological men are going to have quite a big advantage.
Yeah, there is that, especially with things like the boxing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because when it comes to sports, that's like one of the least contentious areas about having men taking part in women's sport. You don't play sport with your gender identity; it's with your body. And if you've got you went through a male puberty, you're going to be stronger and everything. Even if, because we had that case with the boxer Iman Khalif, and now the lab testing has come out saying he's male. He's went through male puberty, and he's got that still, has that male appearance in a way.
Yeah. I mean,
that's one.
Yeah, because with sports you have a lot of different classifications, like weight classes, just to keep people safe, and then same with separating by sex, just to make it more fair. Yeah, the other thing is probably like bathrooms. So biological women aren't comfortable with a lot of trans women going into the female bathrooms, which I think, that's quite fair. And that's the other big one, I think, sports and then bathrooms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is that. But I think also, it's the case of do you want them in female spaces? You see what I mean? You don't want, a lot of them don't want women in these biological men in women's spaces. They can say to them, you have your identity, call yourself what you want, dress how you wish, but you're still going to be treated as a male. You need to stay out of women's sports and stay out of women's changing rooms. And that's something I totally accept and understand and agree with. And I think that fortunately for those people who believe in this gender ideology, they feel that they has to go the whole way. It is like a religion, has to go. entirely, otherwise it's nothing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they want to see themselves as identical to biological women, basically.
Yeah, it's like in every way. Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's actually, it's changing, especially here in the UK. We're seeing lots of changes. We've had lots of studies recently which show that, how should I say? Yeah, there's been lots of studies recently which show how the evidence isn't really there for these gender surgeries, as the Cass report, and of course you had that recent Supreme Court judgment, which says about how how according to the Equality Act, its definition of a woman is a biological woman only. So
Mhm.
yeah, the tide's turning, and only on today, I found somebody I used to follow on Twitter who transitioned and has now announced that she's detransitioning. So see, there's like a seismic shift that's just moving. I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think the there should be there should definitely be a minimum age for transitioning. They should be an adult before they take that decision. Um, but then they wanna have the puberty blockers so before they become an adult. Um, then it's like they may not have matured to make the decision yet. So
Exactly. Yeah. I think you can safely say that there's probably blockers aren't for this indication is just not indicated at all. In fact, I'd even say it's best not just when you're adult, but wait until you're say mid-20s at least, probably later, because you got to wait for the brain to fully mature.
mhm.
Sorry, you
Yeah.
paused for a second.
So it seems like the gender ideology um, compared to most atheists, they seem to be on the left.
Yeah, that's something I noticed. How in the UK you've got the gender critical feminists. A lot of them are atheists, and some of them are, you'd say, you know, towards the left wing, and they're being they're anti-transgender ideology.
Mhm.
So in America, it seems to be a lot more polarized. You've got, it's just like they've got the right, the Christian right, who are against transgender ideology, but on the left, especially people like anybody on the atheist experience or the line, any of those, know they've got to really come out and be pro-trans, otherwise they get cancelled. Uh, it is in the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
way like a religion that's split along those lines.
yeah. It's like what happened to Rationality Rules when he made a video about trans athletes, and then he kind of like he basically got cancelled by the atheist experience people, and everyone was making videos on how he's transphobic, and, all that stuff.
Mm.
So now he makes quite a lot of pro trans videos.
Yeah, he's just had to. Um, he's. I'm trying to think now. He's had to like repent, like a
Mm.
religious way, hasn't he? He put that up, got ostracized by the atheist community of Austin, and now he's got to show his adherence to the true faith again, and it's just and make pro trans. Even it's like he's so pro trans, his arguments are almost illogical.
Mm.
So that's where he's had to go. But yeah, we'll be interested to see where this goes.
Yeah, it's quite back and forth. I guess it's not very clear what direction it's going in. I think compared to like uh, something like gay rights, which was over time got more and more accepted. This is a bit more back and forth. I guess they're in a similar community.
Yeah, yeah. Although at least with I don't know, gay rights probably less harm to people in terms of they don't need surgery or hormones, and there's less societal pressures. Like nobody needs to force me to accept that they're gay; they can just be like that. Whereas, the trans thing, it's you've got pronouns and access to female sports and all this, so it involves like the wider community more.
Yeah, it's a lot bigger range, a lot more impact. I think sexuality is more personal. Just kind of you do what you want, by yourself, I guess.
Yeah,
doesn't have to impact other people.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it confuses me why so many religious people are bothered by other people's sexuality.
That's their religious thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Would you see? I've been doing. Have you watched any of the Gin and Tonic show?
No.
Oh no, that's the other thing I've been doing. I've been every like Friday or so.
Mm-hmm.
A YouTube friend, Drastic Measures Islam. He's doing going through the 70 sins of Islam. We've been critically analysing each one, see if there's any so if there's any merit in them. Some of them do. Some of them do have you can understandable. You can say they're admirable. Some of them are complete rubbish. there's a lot of repetition. It's like same sin can be said several times, and we're thinking we've just done this, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, yes, with sins, I think in all religions, they kind of come in two different categories. I think one is the impact that it has on humans, so lying or stealing or murdering, and then one is more spiritual, theological, so going against God. And those kinds of specific religious ones, or not praying, not fasting, that doesn't really have too much of an effect on people, but it's more like your relationship with God, I guess. So to an atheist, the ones that are tangible, they're probably going to be seen as they make sense, like don't lie, don't steal. Then the ones that aren't, don't pray, it's probably not going to matter too much if you just don't believe that it does anything. So
yeah, exactly, yeah. There's some other ones like don't be proud or something like that, which you can understand it to be not. Yeah, you would not quite. You wouldn't want to make it illegal or something, but
no, yeah,
say it's immoral, but
yeah, I think
borderline,
yeah. With pride, I mean, it's more like it might lead you into a bad situation if you're too prideful of something. So it's just better to avoid it. But it's different to actively wronging someone. With pride, it's more like maybe you're wronging yourself. So yeah, I think that's kind of it's kind of in a separate category as well. I think that Christianity has a lot about that, don't be proud, don't be greedy, don't be jealous, those kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's probably the same in a lot of the religions. It's just there's just some human attribute that you should be in order to be a better person, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's that. We are about 3/4 of the way through. We've just got some left. It's every Friday. It's on the Gin and Tonic show. So that's quite good. Maybe I'll maybe go back to do some more videos as I find some more content.
Yeah.
There's some other things you mentioned. Did you watch the Jordan Peterson and 25 Atheists?
Yeah. So I saw that video, and then I saw a bunch of other people giving their thoughts on the video. I think the worst one for him was Danny Phil talk, basically exposing that he's not a Christian, or he just won't admit to being Christian. Which, if you're a Christian, I'm pretty sure you should really be proud that you're a Christian. People should know that you're a Christian. Same with any religion. Usually, It's a part of your identity if you have a religion. So to hide it, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I think he does that because he likes the idea of religion, but his idea of God doesn't align with the traditional view of theism. So he probably wouldn't fall into Christianity if his actual views were revealed, and then that would be bad for his publicity because all the Christians would start calling him out basically.
Because he was asked several times by the people, "Are you Christian?" And he didn't say yes or no. He just gave a strange answer, and I wondered at the time whether he was just trying to be obtuse by, and ambiguous by, whether he was doing that to be like some devil's advocate, maybe not give his world view so that the content could be neutral or something.
Well, the video was originally called Christianity versus, or one Christian versus 20 or 25 atheists, and they changed it to Jordan Peterson versus 25 atheists.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that name change, but I suppose that makes sense now.
Yeah, so if you look at, a lot of people are posting on Twitter, they'll show like, oh, this was the title of the original video, said one Christian versus 25 atheists, because it was a follow-up to one atheist versus 25 Christians, where it was Alex O'Connor as the atheist. So they were like, oh, let's do the opposite. And I'm pretty sure like Danny Philtalk specifically said that at the beginning of the video, Jubilee told Jordan Peterson, oh, like, so you're going to be the hero of Christianity, basically. And he chuckled, but he didn't like disagree with it. It was only until that conversation where he was like, oh no, you said I'm a Christian. I didn't say I'm a Christian. Because he doesn't want to. Yeah, he doesn't want to admit to it. Because I mean, it's a difficult position to defend, but yeah.
I mean, it's just looking at the the notes he was talking about. They talk about how the atheists see God, and it was the other issue about the morality that came up. We had basically saying how the atheists saying how morality just evolves from just how you want to live, the best way to live, most successful to be in a society where you just care for each other. And they're like, the religions just hijacked that. And Peterson was like countering that by saying, "Oh no, this is just like a proto morality, and that you needed you needed some kind of like religious framework to have a proper morality." It's the same as you hear a lot from all the others.
Yeah. He always specifically attributes it to like Judeo-Christian values. Like he says, all the entire West is built on those values. But I mean, most of the time that Christianity was around, slavery was seen as okay until quite recently, and the Bible, it doesn't say that slavery is wrong. It doesn't say you shouldn't own slaves. People would have used the Bible back in the day to say, yeah, it's fine to keep slaves, and he didn't address that properly. I think he just said, oh yeah. Well, his point was that slavery is bad because Moses had to free the Israelites from slavery. But in the Bible, the Israelites are the chosen people, so they get special treatment compared to the other people. So if you have an Israelite slave, they have to be free in 7 years. Like on the 7th year, they have to be free. But if it's a non-Israelite slave, then you can just have them forever. So there's different standards between having Israelite slaves and non-Israelite slaves. So that point doesn't work.
It gives advice on how to buy your slave.
Exactly, yeah. It tells you what to do.
And all this. And Peterson did say something like, said the abolition of slavery was driven by the values, but they were, slave may have gone in the end. They've disappeared in the end. And
I mean,
they could have stopped it straight away.
Yeah. Or at least even like if there was like some kind of hint saying that, it's not ideal, but if you have to, then do it like this. But there's none of that. It just seems like it's pushed in the Bible, basically.
So like the fact that it says how you could buy your slave, that's but that's not doesn't suggest that they were trying to end it.
Yeah.
If anything, it kind of like gave it some form of approval, official approval for slavery, for it to continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the other thing you did mention about the the worship. Is something like about everyone worships something, which is something you hear from a lot of theists.
Yeah. That's where Danny Filter got him, because he said his definition of worship was you tend to prioritize, and it was another word, but it was like, by that definition of worship, you just worship everything basically. You worship your laptop, you worship your your job, you worship your parents, and then Danny Philtalk tried to say, okay, do Catholics, do they sacrifice for, do they prioritize Mary? And he said, yeah. Then he said, also they worship Mary, and he said, yeah, they do. Which obviously Catholics don't. They say that they don't worship Mary. And then he tried to, backpedal and say, well, I didn't say they prioritize them over all other humans. And he tried to say there was a hierarchy. So, yeah, it can be a hierarchy, but that, if you're still fitting in that category, then you're still worshipping. Like maybe they worship God more than Mary, but they're still worshipping Mary a little bit based on Jordan Peterson's definition. But that conversation went really badly for him.
But this issue of the worship is something that I find really, really frustrating when you've got like the theists. They talk about, you worship your iPhone or something because you're on it most of the day, and you worship junk food or something if you eat unhealthily. It's just it's just non sequitur. It's just not comparable. You don't like worship it. You don't. I don't bow down to my 12-inch pizza before I eat it or something like that. So it's just a false comparison.
Yeah, it's quite different how religious people worship God compared to. It's not something that atheists do, the activities that religious people do. Yeah, they might prioritize some things, but it's just not the same. I think the only way you can say you worship you worship your phone or something like that is if you mean it in a metaphorical sense, and you say you just prioritizing it over everything. Basically, your whole life is about your phone, or alcohol, whatever it is, but not in a literal sense. You're not worshiping it like it's a kind of deity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something like that. Unless you're an obsessive fan of something such that it's ruining your life, then you could draw some sort of comparison. It's different.
Yeah.
You brought up the other thing you did mention in these discussions about nihilism. I'd found, and I did a couple of videos on nihilism when Yusuf Ponders was trying to. He was talking about it a lot, and then that's the thing. Theists say that atheists don't have. You must be nihilistic if you don't believe in a creator or something, or that you were given a purpose. Was just in response by saying that we create our own purpose. We don't need we don't need something given to us. In fact, I'd much rather. It would be worse if there was somebody gave, some being told me what the purpose was of my life. That would be bad because it's not something that I would have chosen. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can draw like a human example, like if your parents are creating you for a purpose that they have in mind, like, I don't know, they have you in the hopes of, like, you want to take over the family business or something, but then you grow up and you don't want to do that, then you're going to do your own thing. It doesn't mean your life's going to be meaningless, just because you're not fulfilling the purpose that someone had for you. So yeah, I mean, you can. I mean, some people do struggle to find meaning and purpose without God, but most atheists seem fine. Just, enjoying their life. So
yeah, I mean, that in itself is, if you are enjoying your life and not causing any harm or anything, that could say that's a purpose, a good purpose. When their theists ask me, they always say, "What do you? Why were you born?" Like, I'll say, "Well, because my parents wanted children. That's all. That's the only reason." So,
yeah. I guess like the theists would say that your purpose is, it's not objective, it's subjective. You just kind of made it up. Whereas if God gives you a purpose, then it's an objective purpose that you have to fulfill. But yeah, I mean,
that's
I
why
think
I sorry. That's why I respond to say it's actually better that it's subjective. It's my
it's like you
my
can decide.
subjective purpose. Yeah. They did touch on that. So, if there's anything else actually they mentioned, it was something about there was some Bible stuff which I wasn't really following because I don't. I'm not really that. I'm not really that great on scripture. They mentioned that.
Uh-huh.
Is there anything you want to say about that?
I think the main stuff with the Bible was probably the slavery stuff, and also God commanding genocide of the Canaanites, the Amalekites. So basically there was there's a group of people, they were inhabiting the promised land, and the land was promised to the Israelites. So God said, go there and just wipe them all out, wipe out all the men, women, babies, animals, just wipe everything out. And then the question was like, oh, was that a good thing that God commanded? Is that a moral thing? Because the point is that it goes against the standard like morality of Christianity, where you're supposed to love your neighbor and don't murder and all those stuff. So there seems to be like a contradiction where God is going against his own rules that he gives all humanity. So it's not okay for you to kill, but if God says you can kill, then it's fine, as long as he says. So then that makes morality subjective to what God wants, basically, what God asks you to do. So then it's not objective. But
yeah, exactly. It says that old euthypro dilemma that all theists have struggled with.
Yeah.
Probably for centuries, and they probably will continue. When you've got an earthquake and you're saying, is that immoral? And they're saying it's God testing us, and then you have to respond, well, how should I respond? Should I just leave it as it is because it's God's will, or should I intervene?
I think they would say that like it's God testing. Well, if you can intervene, it's God testing whether you will intervene or not, I guess, because obviously he could intervene and stop it, but then I guess he's trying to test you, all the rich people who have the power to help, to see if they can or if they will.
But then they also say, God knows everything that's going to happen. So that's another. It's a bit, contradictory.
Yeah, omniscience can be quite confusing. I mean, it's not. You can't really comprehend what it means to know everything. It's going to be quite difficult to imagine. Then it can lead into problems with like free will and stuff, as he knows what you're going to do already. So you can't go against his knowledge of what you're going to do.
Exactly. And was there anything else you want to say about that one, about Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, so the other one was Parker was trying to give him a hypothetical. So yeah, he was like, "Oh, what's your?" Yeah, it was about like belief and truth, and eventually he pushed him into a corner to say, "Is it okay to lie to save someone's life?" Where he gave the example with the if you're in Nazi Germany and there's a Jew hiding in your house, and then a soldier saying, "Oh, is he in there?" And you can either lie and say, "No, he's not here," or you can tell the truth, and that's going to get the Jew killed. So so should you lie or should you not lie? And then Jordan Peterson just refused to answer the hypothetical. He kept saying, "Yeah, I would make sure that I'd never be in that situation. So he just refused to answer the hypothetical because he'd have to say that, yeah, I'd lie to save her life, which would go against his.
So there probably was some clause about lying. It's like they have the takia where you can lie for a greater good or something.
Yeah.
It's probably something similar that he could use as a backup.
Yeah, but he just didn't want to. Like he kept saying, "Oh, if you're in that situation, you've been steeped in so much sin that, like, whatever you do is going to be wrong." But which is confusing because obviously in religion, the whole idea is that you've done a lot of bad things, but then you want to improve and you want to repent. So he's saying that, oh, if you're in that situation, you're a lost cause, which would go against what most religions would say, that it doesn't matter how far gone you are, you can always come back.
Yeah. It's like a rebirth thing where all your past sins are forgotten.
Yeah.
So did you watch the other thing you mentioned is about the Alex O'Connor and John Lennox discussion? Yeah, that was a bit it was interesting about John Lennox being a mathematician and talking about how there's no conflict between science and religion, which you can see that a lot of people do have. You could be scientists, but a lot of them, none of them are religious or theists because of the science. They have their own personal reasons why they follow their religion, and then the science is something like outside of it.
Yeah, it's separate, but also with Lennox, he doesn't want to accept evolution. So, like, I mean, he's always been like that. Like, he will say that, oh, it's not his field, so he can't really say. But then he'll comment extensively on why it's probably not true. And then he was also bringing up Denis Noble and saying his stuff. So so Dave and Planet Peterson, they did a response to the Lennox video, and Dave was saying how all the creationists basically, they kind of circle jerk each other, where one will point to the other and say, "Oh, well, James Tour said this about this, and then Denis Noble said this, and John Lennox said this," and they don't really know what they're saying, but they'll just point to some expert or someone that they think is an expert, and they say, "Oh, because he said it, so it's fine." So it's just an appeal to authority. Because I mean, I think they think that's what science is. So they say, "Oh, if a high-ranking scientist has this opinion, then it must be true," when that's not really how science works.
No, it's not. They do tend to reference each other a lot. So that's something I did notice. And you've got the and the other thing that John Lennox is bringing up quite a bit is this idea about DNA being a code.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those real facepalm moments. You think, "Oh, not this again."
Yeah. It's that, oh, DNA is a code, so there must be a coder that's doing all the coding. Yeah.
It was all because once you understand how DNA works and how it's built up, and you have these random mutations, and that produces proteins, and then you've got the natural selection acting on them. You understand how something like a simple chemical code can just build up its complexity.
Yeah, they like to kind of ignore the natural selection part, and they just act like it's completely random. So the chances of getting the exact sequence are very low. So then they'll say, "Oh, God had to do it," because the chances of getting it are like 10 to the minus 20 or something like that. But obviously they're ignoring that it's being selected for. Like, the one that works is gonna kind of build up as it goes along.
It's like how it builds up complexity and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if a certain sequence has a function, they're going to hold on to that sequence, and then it's going to continue building upon it.
Yeah. So Anything else then? Let's see this. Trying to think of anything else. Yeah, was there anything else you wanted to add about those?
About the Linux stuff, or just in general?
Either of them. Either of them.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess going back to like Denis Noble and stuff. Obviously, he's paid by the Templeton Foundation to create his own kind of middle way between Darwinian evolution and creation, and then that kind of supports the creationist view more because he appeals to like Lamarckian evolution, which was debunked like hundreds of years ago or something.
Yeah.
And,
so that's something like, sorry, yeah, that's something like, you can have purpose, and
yeah,
that just seemed to be more in keeping with them, with like a Christian belief that if you, or just general theological belief that, you can alter your own evolution. It's all, it's kind of like really clever the way he was doing it, whereby he wouldn't come up with anything explicitly religious, but he would say things that other people would pick up on, and some creationists would say, "Hey, look at what this esteemed scientist is saying. Isn't that like what we've been trying to tell you?" Kind of thing.
Yeah, because the religious people, they would just like cherry pick the parts that agree with their worldview, and then the ones that kind of don't, they'll just ignore that. And yeah, similar to like with James Tor, how he'll say that it's got nothing to do with his religion. We're just clueless on the origin of life. Obviously, he just wants to keep the gap open so that he can say, well, God did it. Well, he's not going to say it, but anyone who watches him is going to say, well, the logical conclusion is God did it if there's no natural explanation. But he pretends that, oh, no, it's just science.
Exactly, yeah. And there's another one I mentioned. Did you remember Gunter Beckley? Did you ever hear about him?
Yeah, I saw Dave's video on him.
Yeah.
Because he just kept...
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
He just kept writing like loads of pieces on Evolution News or whatever the website is. He just kept responding to James's videos, but in text form, like he wasn't making any video response. And then Dave just went through all of those and exposed him for like misquoting papers and misusing papers and stuff.
Yeah, there was that, and he was very. I think he was quite deceptive in that he was saying now he had he came across to intelligent design through scientific means only, and not through a religious dogma, and that was just seems like such a suspect story that nobody would really believe. And I was wondering what he was up to, and it looked at the beginning of year he actually died in a car crash.
Oh dear,
yeah. But it's always strange because the story is that they think it's murder suicide because what happened, I think, is apparently he had some row with his wife and she thought he was suicidal. He drove off in the car and they had a head-on collision, so he could have deliberately driven into the other car and killed the other occupants at the same time, which is a very like selfish way to go out. Should have just done it if he was going to commit suicide. He should have just done it on his own.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, because I mean that video was quite a while ago, so yeah, I hadn't heard anything from him since then. But all the Discovery Institute people they're pretty much all the same, where they accept that the Earth isn't young. They'll accept old Earth creationism, but they'll say there's a problem with evolution. So they'll draw the line there compared to like answers in Genesis that will say that the Earth is 6,000 years old and all that stuff. So they're a bit more scientific than them. But I mean, the whole purpose of intelligent design, it used to be called creation science. So the purpose was to kind of reintroduce the biblical narrative of creation back into schools, and then they tried to make it sciencey by putting intelligent design. But I don't know. I feel like design and intelligence, they just don't. It doesn't seem to fit with like nature and science. Like I don't see how that term can be a scientific term. Um,
Yeah, it is all. It was just a blatant attempt to teach creationism in schools. There was that bit where they tried to change creation science to with design proponents, and then
yeah,
they did like it ended up with C design proponents.
yeah, because like when you say design, you're already assuming that there is a designer. So you're just
Yeah,
presupposing that there's a designer. Then you're working off of that conclusion already. Um, so that's not really science if you're just assuming there is one. Um, so
yeah,
that's probably why. Um, I remember when I was in school and in like the religious studies class, intelligent design was brought up. This was back when I was like, so I didn't believe in evolution and stuff like that because I was younger. And the teacher said, yeah, intelligent design isn't taken seriously by the scientific community. It's pseudoscience basically,
mm,
um, which obviously that was I didn't know it was. I thought it was like a genuine scientific thing because most of the Muslim content creators are also subscribed to it.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Subboor's had on his channel. He's had Casey Luskin, James Tour. He's had Douglas Axon. All these Discovery Institute people. They've all been thoroughly debunked.
yeah,
But yeah, this
yeah.
is like they talk amongst themselves, really.
Mhm. Yeah, it's really annoying when like someone like Piers Morgan will have Stephen Meyer on and then pretend he's like some respected scientist who's doing actual science work rather than spreading pseudoscience. Because obviously the scientific community doesn't take him seriously. But then there's a difference between that and what the general public think, which is why the science communicators like Dave and other channels are so important to bridge that gap because a lot of the scientists they kind of work amongst themselves. There's not a lot of scientists that are doing communication and actually explaining their work. So that's why there's a
Yeah,
huge public distrust on science and stuff like anti-vax, the Andrew Wakefield stuff. It's
yeah.
all coming back, which is
There
very
is, yeah, there's a bit
dangerous.
of that science denial.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
one thing I do think is a lot of those left-leaning science communicators, they do a lot of good by pushing back on anti-vax and science denial. But when they treat this transgender issues, ideologies, their religion in a way, then it just undermines their credibility and detracts from their science communication. It's a shame.
Mm. Yeah.
Mm. Still, all right. Anything else you want to say?
Um, yeah, I guess just that for Dennis Noble, he's not an evolutionary biologist, so it's not his field directly. He's not in that. Just like James Tour isn't a origin of life researcher, and it's always or they think, oh, because he kind of works in biology or he kind of works in chemistry, therefore his opinion must be correct. Whereas you'll never find someone that's in the field actively studying it that disagrees with the entire field. You're not going to find an origin of life researcher that says the whole of it is a scam, or a geologist that says, the Earth being old is all a scam. It's very rare you find that. It's always someone who works in an adjacent field. They do a little bit of they study a little bit and then they misunderstand or
Yeah,
they lie about it. And
it's true. It's
yeah,
mainly there's a lot of what should I say, a lot of engineers for some
oh,
reason. It's just engineers and philosophers. They seem to make up so many of the intelligent design, and you think, yeah, where are the active biologists who whose opinions that you could trust. But
yeah, I guess engineers, because I think when it comes to like science in industry, like engineering is probably like the biggest field. Like all the different types of engineering, there's probably way more engineers than researchers or people doing PhDs. Like most people studying science, if they end up working in science, is some kind of engineering, and then engineering is all like, you're designing different things, so you work with that kind of thing, and then they relate that to the designs that they see in nature, and they say, oh, this looks like a human design, so it must have been designed. So that's
the only thing the only analogy they can see, they're designing on their computer program some machine in there which gets built, and so maybe they think that's the only mechanism. That's what happens in nature as well. That's what they're thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then philosophers. Yeah, I mean the philosophers that say that, then they haven't like studied the biology or physics like that. You'll have guys like William Lane Craig, always talking about the cosmological argument. How can something come from nothing? And he'll talk about different physicists, but none of those physicists will agree with him and his points about the Big Bang and stuff. I know that Phil Halper recently released his book on the Battle of the Big Bang, which I do want to buy that and read that. It sounds very interesting.
Yeah, Phil's been doing a lot of good stuff. Bring physicists and cosmologists on. I've got to be, not a lot of it's above my head. When they really go into the minutiae of their quantum physics and all that.
Yeah.
But it's good that he's doing that.
Yeah, it's good to hear what the actual specialists in the field say and think. It's good for the public to know what's going on, keeping up to date with all the news, and to expose all the charlatans that are lying about what's going on in the community.
He's a speaker's corner.
Sorry,
he's a speaker's corner sometimes. Phil Halper.
Phil Halper. Yeah. I only saw his discussion with Subboor, and then it was just when he had to leave, Subboor kept saying, "Oh, why are you running away?" Even though they'd been talking about the same topic for 2 hours on homology.
That's the problem with Subboor. You do tend to go around in circles. You just have to give up. Walk away. But he did. So at least he did that video with Elliot Sober, where Elliot Sober just came out and said that Subboor had misquoted him. Which is good.
Yeah. And Subboor he always wants to make a distinction between a common ancestry and Darwinian evolution. He likes to, because he wanted 3 separate debates with Dave rather than one, because obviously they all connect to each other. But he doesn't want, if Dave brings that up, then he wants to say, "Oh no, that's a separate debate. You can't talk about that now." So.
But when he got his one debate, he didn't talk about what he was.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Anyway, should we wrap it up? And
yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
Cool. We'll talk. So, okay, great. Well, nice talking to you again.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, we'll speak to you soon then.
Yeah. We'll talk again.
Bye.
Bye.